Luis, how are you? Mm, I, uh, I, I started a Wake and Think Clearly Zoom meeting. Uh, so if you wanna join us, right now, you're welcome to. Thank you. Uh, so, mm, mm, Mm. Mm. Mm.
Good morning,
Wel-
Gerald.
Welcome, Dominic. How are you this morning?
Just getting up. Okay, yourself?
Yes, and my mother is at home.
She doing okay, hopefully?
Yes, there she is in her master bedroom.
Mm.
I'm taking care of her, making sure she doesn't get out of bed and go wanting to go pee.
So, what's up for today on Thursday? Thursday morning.
God, G-O-D, G as in God, O as in over self, D as in dog. Mm. Mm. I I invited Luis Del Pino and David Norton. Mommy and Joel.
I hope they come. Um, so the topic for you, Gerald, you want to talk about God?
Yes.
Okay. And how would you like to talk about it? Does God exist or doesn't exist? What does it serve?
Why do we believe in God?
Hmm. I guess for some people it's hope. Um, for me, I try not to use the ideal of a God. It's kind of like talking about a parent all the time in a conversation. But does it exist? I would lean towards yes. And yes, in the sense that something or someone or created the clouds, the sun and the moon, the trees. It's kind of like I know what people like to talk about, or at least regurgitate the Big Bang ideal. To me, it's like a car. The car just didn't show up one day. It took generations for it to develop. So there's a good chance there's a whole bunch of, and humans participated in that. Could be gods. Now, if you want to share your interpretation of what you think a god is or isn't, please share.
Mm. Did, did I hear you say like father?
No, I don't
Mm,
perceive God as father.
mm. But did you mention it? I thought that was interesting. Oh, you might have said some people think of it as a father.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. So it's in that case, it's male, masculine.
Sure.
Yes. And Jesus referred to his Father in heaven, our Father in heaven.
True. But did that particular one that
So,
he's talking about make heaven? Don't know.
so
Mm.
Jesus even gave a prayer. It starts off with our Father. who art in heaven. He
Mhm.
didn't say God. He
No, he
said
didn't.
Father.
He
He
did.
didn't say my Father. He said our Father. He said our. That means that we are all sons and daughters of God.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Well, the Pope papacy is known as Father. So that could be man-made structure, gyro. I can only go based on, for me, intuitively. Um, I think there is entities or something that's called gods, God or gods, and then there's Lord gods, ruling gods. Far as what you're talking about, I don't really venture into that area anymore about Jesus and all those other things, because he might have, whoever he is or what he was, might have existed. It's no different from me philosophizing. I'm not interested in hearing somebody use the name Socrates. Whatever teachings or phrases they use to attach to Socrates, whether he wrote it or not, I'm going to try to use some discernment of the teachings, like, whether Jesus wrote it or somebody used Jesus's name, says, love thy neighbor. I'm going to try to have discernment on that phrase, not on whose mouth it came out of personally. But I get it, for a lot of people that I probably think are very lazy when it comes to thinking, will say things like that. And then I get frustrated because I try to explain myself. I'm not trying to change them. I'm just trying to explain myself. And I'm thinking, no, I get a sense of what I'm talking about. Now, could I be misleading myself? Probably. But am I going to write a book on it? No. You choose to record these. I'm very grateful that you choose to invite me. Um, but outside of that, I'm not going to do my own YouTube channel. So I could, feed my ego. So I'm still doing it now. Don't get me wrong, but I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out of my way to do it. I'm not going to walk down the street and knock on people's doors and talk about what God is or isn't, because to me, it's one of those things you just have to make self-observations, use your eyes, look outside, and then ponder. It doesn't need to be the name God. It could be aliens. It could be anything, but just ponder and say, okay, so how did this came to be? If that doesn't strike up a conversation within oneself, then that person's just waiting for somebody to tell them in the media what to do and what not to do. So anyway, and when I say anyway, that's my way of cutting myself short without going on these long tangent. It works with me, Gyro. When I talk, I'm associating all that in my head, but I realize other people, they're going to do what they're going to do, and vice versa with you. And I apologize in past. Sometimes you go on these long conversations, but as long as it makes sense to you. Sometimes I have to learn to respect, keep quiet, and let you talk. If it goes on too long, then it's my responsibility if I want to leave or not, or maybe mention to you. That's it. But back to my initial inquiry back, because you did say Father, but you used the word God. Are you using those interchangeable, Jaro? Are you thinking God and Father are the same, or are you pondering how other people perceive it?
Mm, yes, because mm, mm, because uh, Jesus said Father,
Mhm.
and I don't. I'll have to see how many times he said Father be, versus God. I wonder. I wonder. And in the Old Testament, how many times they said Father versus God? Maybe Jesus was the first one to use that for
Could be,
some reason.
could be.
Mm.
Well, you got take also, Jaro, to know that no matter what we read or hear, when it comes from another person's voice or written down from another person, it could easily be misinterpreted, purposely interpreted differently. So this is why I've said in past, if something's been inspired to be written, regardless if somebody's misread it, then through only inspiration, I mean, through, yeah, inspiration, will you be able to, and thoughts, will you be able to grasp that? A written work could be written exactly the way it was spoken, but for a lot of people, they might as well still be blind because they're not living that way. So what purpose would it serve them? So whoever the Father is or isn't, it should be more about if Jesus or whole bunch of other people wrote stuff in his name, whether in vain or not, that's where you have a chance to make discernment. I don't really care about who Jesus was, let alone whose Father is. But if there's some teachings like love thy neighbor, that is what I can use. Now, if I personally knew him, then there would be more responsibility on me because I knew of him and I asked him questions, or her or it questions. It'll be like you meeting me and you, Jaro, getting a visitation from an alien. I asked a whole bunch of questions, and you just were too busy thinking, I saw an alien. So now when you meet other people, you say, oh, I met an alien. Okay, that's it. But meanwhile, I can share what questions I asked and how they responded back. They're still going to think maybe me and you both really didn't see what we saw. But at least I know for myself, I know the question that I asked and what I got for a response. For most people, the example I'll give you with Jesus is most people go on vacation so they can brag to their friends where they went, where other people go on vacation because they want to enjoy the vacation. They're not concerned about telling other people. This is why when even Jesus says, don't be like those hypocrites where they publicly make displays, go within in private and pray, and God will reward you in the light. Now, he did use the word God. He did use the word God in that instance. Now, that's what I'm asking. Are you using it interchangeable?
So yes, I would like to understand why or and when and for what reason it is referred to as Father.
Mhm.
So I looked up a little bit, and it's why do Jews call God Father? In Judaism, the use of Father as a title is generally a metaphor referring to the role as life giver and lawgiver, as in the Ten Commandments and other rules, and is one of many titles by which Jews speak of and to God. The Jewish concept of God is that God is non corporeal, transcendent, and immanent, the ultimate source of love, in a metaphorical father.
Mhm.
So what does Father God mean in Hebrew? You will find that the Hebrew name for God, Yahweh, would have been written as a dashed line in order to afford deep reverence for God's holy name.
Yeah,
It
we're always
wouldn't
using
write it
symbols. Yeah.
down. The Hebrew name for God, the Father, is Ab. Uh, the the letters A ending in the letter B, Ab. Wow. The Aramaic word for father is Abba, which translates as dear father. You and I would know this term of endearment as daddy.
You know,
Uh,
Jaro, go for a second, Jaro.
Interesting.
I don't mind entertaining this, but when I hear people say God bless you or may God bless you, may might be it, but who are we to give? This is where we hear the word don't use God's name in vain. That's why sometimes in the old days it was it's a name we do not speak because most people don't realize. Just look at what was left. That is what we give admiration to. But to say God bless you, that's kind of arrogant in my interpretation. Who am I to give somebody blessing? And then you hear other people They say it constantly because in the media, they actually write in the script, God damn. If a person does not believe or they're an atheist, they don't believe in a God. So that word should never come out of their mouth that way. And if a person's a Christian, again, that word should never come out of their mouth. To entertain the ideal of God to me is like somebody just presented me a beautiful Ferrari and I'm looking at it and the only thing I'm wondering is who made it? Who made it? Who made it? Well, it says right on it, Ferrari. Yeah, but who made it? Give me a name. That's a person talking from a very singular point of view where the bodies of water should give you hints that there is something out there, whether you want to call it a god, an alien, whatever. Now, the Big Bang ideal, which it could have happened that way too, because in the beginning, what was before the beginning? This is where, now for you, you might are trying to understand who is your maker. Your father and your mother were the vessels to conceive the body through the sperm and the egg, but they weren't the creator of those things. Somebody else saying that I'm the father, let's say the Pope. I don't think the Dalai Lama calls him the father, but let's say he does. They're both made from the same substance you're made from. That's like one piece of dirt asking another piece of dirt, did you make me? Well, no. Did we interblend? Yes. So, like I said, I'll hear you talk about God, but you brought in the Father. And my understanding of the Father and the God are two different things. But I don't even know what God really is. So I'm just playing word games. You know, because even gods, I wouldn't want to think the humans were all just one human and then we created everything or formed everything, let alone the gods. I think they were a bunch. Now, could angels and demons be misinterpreted or cleverly choose to be acknowledged as a father or a god? Probably. But that's why it's our responsibility to learn to ask questions with oneself. And if I ever do meet an angel or an alien, I would have a whole bunch of questions. Now, if they turn around and say, well, you can't ask me questions because I'm an angel, I said, how insecure are you as an angel that I'm so inferior to you as a human in your eyes, but you still won't allow me to ask questions? It would be a game as they choose to kill me, tear me apart, whatever. So again, Jaro, are you asking for yourself what a God is or isn't so you can have an argument with yourself or debate with yourself? Because you know I won't entertain those, Jaro. I'm not interested in debating. That's part of my frustration because I realize I'm not trying to prove a point with somebody else. I'm trying to share a point, but I have to always remember I see it through my point of view and through my eyes. Regardless if somebody else writes it down, it's still through my perception now, how I see it written down. So again, I went on a little bit too long. I apologize, Jared. I did cut you off. So please, I'll try to make it a point of shh, keep quiet.
So I'm not trying to debate you. Maybe I would like to debate with you, as in like when you play tennis. Hey, okay, we warm up, and then okay, let's play a few games. And so I would be playing with you to get some extra exercise and more instead of hitting back and forth, more challenge my skills, to improve my skills, and to bring about the competitive juices, or to get that extra adrenaline and running after the ball.
A quick insert. If I was playing you tennis, Jaro, and there was a shot that you're able to do, I would probably stop, come to you at the net, and then Jaro, can you show me if you have to come on my side or have to come on your side to show me what you're doing to make that shot happen? That is what I do. I'm kind of like the coach player. I'm not interested in winning a game because I know I could find friends that I could beat and I can find friends that can destroy me in tennis. That's not competitive. That's about just winning and losing. I'm very competitive with me. I'm trying to understand the nuts and bolts, how things
Mhm.
come to be. So for me to prove to somebody else, well, I understand how a car works, then I'm also go to a baby if I'm really trying to feed my ego. I'm not interested in that personally.
Mm.
So for me, I would say, Jaro, do you want to play with me or against me? Because against me, then we have to understand the rules and let's play. Now, are we going to play that I get to play the best I can be? Because if I play the best I can be and I find out my best is not even close to what your best is, then I would say, I'm going to humble myself. Jaro, teach me. Teach me how to be a better player so that eventually I could be at your level and then make it worth your energy. I've done that with squash. And then my friends say, well, Dominic, I don't think I've improved. I said, I have seen you improve. You're no longer giving me points. You're earning them. You're forcing me to earn them, which I'm grateful. And this is what you want to debate. I want to earn it. I don't want to somebody say, well, Dominic, you're wrong. I don't give a damn if I'm right or wrong. That's right up there with likes and dislikes. If we're in the country, I know in America they have a phrase, land of the free and the pursuit of happiness. I'm not interested in happiness. I'm interested in growth. Within growth, I might have moments of happiness. I want to grow as a human being, not just financially. I struggle in that area because I pursued this other area of my life. I don't want to have way more friends that I can't even maintain. If I have two or three friends or maybe three or four friends in one lifespan and I can maintain them, I've accomplished something. I'm not interested in having 1,000 Facebook friends because I know they're not friends. They're just people that say, hey, I know that person. I met you at the coffee shop. I went to school with you. I'm looking for, as my wife and me would say, we're looking for substance, meanings, something I can count on you if we were in a crisis situation, let alone a very happy situation. Jaro tells me tomorrow he won $1 million. I'd be very happy for you, Jaro. I wouldn't be concerned about, what can I get from it? Anyway, again, I went on. I'm so sorry, Jaro.
Well, yes, so sounds good. So then I would like to not debate with you or against you without you knowing it, but more like I would like to share with you to increase my understanding so that I may, if I were to be placed in a in a in a challenging position where I would want to debate, to defend a point, or to prove a point, or to see if my point is valid against someone else, and to see if uh, if if it, if I am able to think logically, critically, and clearly with my arsenal of knowledge. And then, for now, I would like to understand how we got here, how we, as a Christian society, mostly, why is it we believe what we believe? What, and what drove us to have religious wars and things like that, and conquest?
Well, because you have division. You want somebody that thinks there's standover. We're humans, human beings. We're not born Christians or Muslims or born liberals or communism or dictators. You might be born into those systems because you're in the form that's born in that system, but you're not those things. And this is where, if we're talking about society, are we talking about a small colony of society or the whole? Because the whole has many flavors to it. And this is where a person that's a Christian is never going to understand a Muslim that thinks, well, I'm a Muslim. I said, you're going to forget who you really are. And even the things that you think you are, you're not those things. This is where the fingers cuts itself off despite its hand.
Ah, ¿quieres ir al baño?
I guess, Cheryl, if you can hear me, are you a Christian? And if you are, have you ever questioned why and how you got programmed to be a Christian? Because you're never going to understand a Muslim, but you might understand the program that everybody sets himself up to. For me, what I know of you, Gyro, I think you're a very intellectual human being. I think you waste a lot of energy wanting to prove to other people through a form of debate, because the only person that should really ever understand Gyro is Gyro. You can share with me, and I'll do my best to maybe comprehend what I hear you talk about you, but I'm never going to know you. As lonely as that may sound, but I'm comfortable with my aloneness, but it will sound lonely. You know, having moments of intimate conversations or people that have intimate sex, that's all they are, they're moments. But fortunately and unfortunately, you can have more of those moments. But to think that this is where people get caught up in the word happiness. It's kind of like a person that's explored into drugs. They want more of it. Some people get attached sooner than others, and they want nothing more than them. Think about workaholics, people that only identify themselves as a parent or as a boss or as a worker or as a slave or as a master. Once you realize you're not those things, and then the person still wants you to continue with the persona, you couldn't give who you truly are to them, even if you wanted to. But you can give them the persona. I'm a Christian. I'm a boss. I'm a parent. But are we really those things? And the only way we're going to know is if you're prepared to also bring in the questioner to question it. Don't question me. It's of no energy. It's a waste of energy to question another human being unless you're trying to learn how to question. But to question my character, it's a waste of energy. To question my point of view. Sorry, go ahead, Jaro. Are you muted?
Yes. No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. So you're talking. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying.
I was just moving my finger.
Oh, okay.
To get rid of messages.
So once again, Jaro, unless a person is prepared to question themselves, the self, you know, because if the self, the ego, the I, whatever we want to call it, is what it is, then it should have no qualms with to see whether or not it's true. It's like if you're really trying to make gold and you think that's real gold, you should be able to put it through the fire. Yeah, but what happens if it's not real gold? Then at least you know. Now, would you have discernment to say, why would they give me something that's not real gold, but yet it is gold? I said, because it's easy. We're lazy. This is the concept of being misled. You know, I'm not always interested in pursuing knowledge. If anything else, I want to pursue wisdom and understanding. But if I remember in the biblical story, they talk about it. They're going to put a bright light in front of it now because we can no longer freely have it. You got to work for it now. It's like trust. You meet a person for the very first time, and if you've never met that person, you should give the benefit of the doubt of trust. It's when they've proven otherwise, then they have to earn trust. But unfortunately, most people figure, well, I've been harmed by a dog or a person of dark skin. I said, but they didn't do nothing to you. Just because they're in a very similar costume doesn't mean they should lose trust. And I know this stuff because I'm part of the human race. I'm just aware of my quirks, my contradictions. That's why I said I don't even enjoy when I hear two people going back and forth in these heated debates or arguments, because I'm picking up the energy. They're trying to win. They don't care about helping and improving in each other and help them grow. They just want to win at any expense. Then pull out a fucking gun, because it's not even the samurai's way. Samurai's way, at least you give each other blows, but when it comes to the finishing blow, let the person that it's their responsibility for their vessel to do it. Now, I can't have that conversation with somebody that's so fixated with debating or arguing with oneself. That'll be like being in a relationship with a father or a mother or a loved one. They always want it their way. Even their way was designed in the highway. But good luck, I'm even using the word luck now. But for a lot of people, it would have to be luck if they choose to change their ways. And even if they did, what, for a moment? It's kind of like my vision of it. I don't have to quote other people. Two people meet each other. One person's very kind, the other person's very mean. The one kind person tells me, who's on the side, saying, Dominic, I'm going to help this person. I'm going to change them. I quickly turn around and tell them, I said, would you want them to change you to be me? No. So then why are you trying to change them? Be you. Don't worry about what other people say or don't say. Or here's another word. Don't be excited what they have to say about you either. When people compliment me, I make sure my ego's in check. Why? Because that's what I can be attached to. Oh my goodness, Dom, you're so amazing. No, I'm not. And even if I was, why do you have to tell me? Are you trying to gratify that you can say it down the road that, oh, I know a guy? No, I listen to a lot of people on YouTube, Jaro, and they debate. They're all making shit up. And when I say making shit up, let's say they did meet an alien. How can you convince another person that they saw one too? Let them have their own will, regardless if it's free, receptive, open, whatever they want to call the word will. But most people hear the word free will. Next thing you know, they're parroting it. And I'm actually offending a poor parrot, but they're designed to repeat the human race, the human voice. But anyway, we deviated. God. What is God? What is God? I kind of explained. I wouldn't know who the gods are, but I do realize I look at man-made stuff, M-A-M-E-N, and then I see other things, trees, clouds, and I'm like, humans don't create that. Replanting a seed, that's all we do. We can cut them down, replant seeds, but we didn't create the first tree, let alone the variations of them. Now, if there's humans that are able to do that or know who, I would like one day to eventually have a chat with them, people, if possible, but only if spirit will allow it. Just because I watch tennis and I hit the tennis ball once in a while does not give me the privilege or the right, more times it's a privilege, that I should be able to play some of the best players in the world. And what would I really be saying about them? Oh, do me a favor. Can you play with your left foot tied behind you, or put a big cement boot on so to make the game fair? No. Be the best you can be, and when you are the best you can be humble enough to know the difference, that you're not at that person's level yet. But if you want to learn, then you can be teachable. But if a person wants to debate, you're not teachable. Argue, debate, prove a point. I get caught up in that too, Gyro. And I'm not saying I'm teachable. I have moments of teachable. But am I full of crap? A lot of areas of my life I could say yes. I'm not asking anybody to follow me, but they're not other people. Well, Dominic, I would never want nobody to follow me. I said, then why are you preaching this guy named Jesus or Muhammad then? They're just doing it indirectly. What's the teachings? Why do you want me to follow you? Where are we going? Those are questions. When I hear somebody say to me, Dominic, I went to university, I got a indoctrination or in philosophy, I'm thinking, moron. Why? Because is that how you lead? If I'm laying on the road and I just got hit by a car, and I'm hearing one guy talking, well, I used to be a doctor. I'm fucking not interested in what you used to be. Are you going to assist or not? Be in the moment. It's a hard thing, Jaro, because the truth of the matter is, if there's a truth to that, it's all I ever have is the moment. So I spend time delusion myself with the past. What is a form of the past? Let me read about what somebody in the past wrote about. How does it apply to me now? If it's about me, but I don't always make it about me. I try to take in information about, and I'm using my imagination, what people are doing in other parts of the world. What is poverty throughout human race? What is wealth? What is greed? Walk in the mall next time, just look around, say, I wonder what all those individual people are thinking about. Look at that. I wonder what that person's doing when they're feeding us information, saying wearing a mask. I wonder what they're thinking of. Or they're just too busy being a robot like AI. Even a computer has to be created first, and then you input AI, in this case, Siri. So maybe the form that we're in is the computer, and then we, whatever we are, come in after. Could be. Now, is there a source? Some people like to use the word source or divine to interpret the word God. Again, if I'm so into the world, trying to understand for myself what my placement is, how we interact with each other, why would I be concerned about what I see or don't see? I could pose possibility of the unknown. But to lead with the word Jesus, I've heard you even send me some information because you live in the States where Donald Trump might come back or whoever. How important are they to what's going on in that room for you? Now, if you want to share that, so be it. We want to talk about who won the football game, and to me, it's a simple inquiry. How can you be that important if you're the most famous athlete, if you didn't create the sport, let alone the ring that you're in, let alone your opponent? That's a form of humbleness for the ego. It gives them a moment, oh yeah, fuck, I didn't even create the people that actually cheer me or the people that are arguing with me. So if there is entities out there that are trying to make us separate, we're doing that quite well on our own by arguing with each other. What is war? It's about arguing. But are they arguing for themselves, or are they arguing because their king told them? Because usually most kings in the external world are friggin' lazy. Now they might hire other people. That's how the game has worked. I'm so lazy, but I don't want nobody to know, so I'll get other people to work for me. They're not even working for him. They're working for what they can get from him. Their food, pieces of paper. I remember I used to go to work and I'd hear a boss say to me, or a person that thinks he's the boss, I say, "Why, you honestly think I'm here for you? No, I'm here for fiat currency. And last time I remembered, I've worked for a week for you and you haven't paid me yet. So don't think for 1 second you've ever done anything for me yet." And that's when I quickly say, your parents failed you. What do you mean? They didn't teach you that simple observation. And that observation, Jaro, is not an external one at that point. It's an internal word. But we mimic shit. Oh yeah, but I'm doing you a favor. Doing what? Giving me exercise? And then I start giggling a little bit, and I already know the person's, well, Dominic, I don't like your attitude. I said, there's 2 things you can do. You can hire and fire me. The rest are just suggestions. Now, will it come at a consequences? Yes, financially. Because most people will compromise or settle their own personal health and their own safety and their own boundaries in exchange to willingly be a slave. Hence the word free will. Free will to be a slave. Wow, that's a waste of energy. But once again, I've deviated because a lot of people like to avoid the important questions for themselves to talk about some imagination. Does a God exist? Well, do you want to see the God, or do you want to see what they created? Well, I don't believe they created that. So then you're being clever then. It's like a person being an atheist. I don't believe in a God. Okay. So do you believe in secular then? Yes. So let's take the word secular and God out of the equation. You believe. They don't want to question things. They want to believe. That's what people debate about, Jaro, beliefs. And then some people might even skip away from beliefs and then they know. Knowing something doesn't mean you have discernment. It just means you know now. And that's it. I won't debate with people. It's of no interest to me. But it might be of interest to them. So I'll gladly hear them. But for them to say, well, don't, but I want you to be the opponent. Okay. A woman just said no. After that, what they're doing is they're raping. They don't understand. I'm not interested in having that argument. I do that quite well on my own, Jaro. When I'm in my own car by myself, the shit that people think they're doing to me, fuck, is nothing compared to what I've done to myself. I rip holes into myself, Jaro. But a lot of people, what they do, they might do the opposite. Because I've done it once in a while. Once in a while, I just don't go around always selling pleasantry, doing all these affirmations. Oh, I'm beautiful today. I'm good. I'm this and that. Okay, that's fine. But are you going to do the other part too? Ripping a hole in yourself. You know, you could have been a kinder person to that person. You know, you could have helped that person across the street. Why didn't you? Those are questions now. Well, I'm what? You're going to make one of the excuses? You're too busy? You know, but then we count on other people to be responsible for us. Be a politician over me. Be my teacher. Be my parent. You know, and then we wonder why we all live in a nanny state. The reason why it's called nanny state is because the people that rule over you, they're not even the owners. They're not even our parents. Joe Biden, I don't like him. I'm going to live in the basement of his house. Because people don't realize the number one dogma is commerce. Just got to look around. If you use self-observation, who gave us our trucks, our cars? Does it really matter? What do you do with the trucks? Well, I drive around to my job. Okay, what do you get from your job? How much does it cost for gas? People have this delusional idea that they're independent in a city where it proves, if you look observation, you're more dependent if you don't understand interdependency. We don't live in communities anymore, Jaro, when we work with each other to help each other. We live in most cities like we're coming from a puppy mill. But yeah, we like to entertain these words, like you were saying. It is an entertainment, Jaro. Let's talk about God, and then you brought in some scriptural written work where it says about a character named Jesus, who might or might not have existed. And I say that ever so lightly because how does that help me with discernment? Most people, the only thing you could do, and I think I've shared it before, whether Jesus exists or not, the only thing I could do is believe. But that doesn't help me if I was going to teach my kids something, my wife something, my friends something, myself first and foremost. You know, love thy neighbor. Now, if you become aware that most people, if not all people, can't say all people, most people never live outside of their vessels, then who's that neighbor that's been there the whole time? Most people don't even talk to their own neighbors that live beside them. You might, Jaro, because you're more of a social butterfly. But a lot of people, no. The only time they ever talk to their neighbors is they go 2,000 miles away or kilometers away and go on vacation, and they see some person they kind of looks familiar, and they feel lonely. So, hey, George, how's it going? Tim, you never talk to me, and I live right next door to you. Those aren't friends. Those are superficial human beings, and they're not even aware that they're superficial. That's the sad part. Then people get mad at psychopaths and sociopaths because at least they're aware how to play the game of superficial. But let's talk about a God. He's a creature that was way up there or down here, and he decided to manipulate the human race. And we have learned to be slaves and masters just like they were. They wanted our gold or gold. They wanted us to mine gold. See, these are all the stories, Jaro. They could all be true. I don't know. But hey, let's go with the story. And because I can't prove it, this is how people can easily get into debates. Well, I don't think you're telling me the truth, Dom. Well, you think you know the truth? No. Well, then let's debate about it. Okay, let's debate about it. But first, before we debate, let me go buy myself a masturbate, because masturbate and debating is the same ideal. So go ahead. Mhm. So you think God's up in heaven? Okay, before the clouds or after the clouds? Dare not have that conversation with the Christians. So when you die, do you die when that you look 100 years old like your mother, or do you die when you're at your best age and you look like you're 30? Well, you don't go up with the body. So then what do you go up as then? Well, how do we not know all the clouds are not that little energy that comes from all of us that we can't account for when we try to use weight to gauge things? Could that be God's? Or are we just all going to go back to the earth? And then most of us are depriving the earth because we get buried in these high-tech coffins where it takes 90 years before you can even decay. And I still think it's appalling. I value commerce, but I think it's appalling to have cemeteries and where people live. It's business still, don't get me wrong. You do get money from funerals and all that, but they should have zoning outside of the cities. And while they're doing that, they might as well do the school system too. If you're going to run a grid system that's somewhat beneficial, but burying your dead among the living, back in the days, people used to do that because they owned a piece of land. Where are you going to bury your Uncle George? On a piece of plot on our land. But in cities, you go to New York, that's all you see, this big fucking black cloud of dust because you're seeing the two cemeteries on either side of the freeway. And if we're not humans that aren't morons, what are we? But yet, hey, those are the same morons. Let's talk about God. Hey, Jaro, we're going on a bike ride. I'm sorry, a car drive. We're going to go to Canada, but we're still in the States. You're already talking about, oh, when I go to Canada, I'm going to have a burger. I'm going to have all of this. You're already running with the ball before you even catch it. And that's most people when we talk about God. Now, I know I'm being a total blah, blah, blah right now, but how many people question themselves when they're saying, well, why did I say the word goddamn? I don't even know what it is. Why would I say, God bless you? Who am I to bless anybody? Anyway, excuse me again. I'm okay when I'm by myself doing this, Gerald, but I'm being rude to you. So sorry again. Again. I got a question if I'm really sorry then, if I keep on doing it. Anyway, Gerald, if you do a nice little chuckle, because you do it once in a while, and then maybe you can go back on track about the Christian and Father and all the different languages.
I have a question. So, how did we get here? Not evolutionarily or creationally, but how did we get here with our concepts? There's a variety of concepts, but are many concepts of what is God? And like the concepts that we were given growing up in a Catholic family, and then we may have dropped it or whatever. But then we may decide, oh, it's good to take our kids to church, so then they get indoctrinated the way we got. So why are we in this sea, in this environment of mostly Christianity? There's some Judaism and a little bit of Muslimism. So because we got records of what was said uh, in the Old Testament, and with stories, there are varieties. and in the New Testament, there's those stories. So, so you can tell a little bit of difference between the God of the Israelis and or the God of the Jews and the God in the New Testament, maybe, or the God that they eventually the Christians uh, conceptualized. So how did this happen?
Well, Jarl, the story of Frankenstein is it's a good depiction of Frankenstein himself was trying to understand or depict how he came, who his maker was, and then come to realization of all the different parts he came. We're going backwards in our understanding what we're in a sense that because you're in the computer industry area where you got a computer, not everybody's computer has the same downloading processor in it, let alone storage. So if you think about how we came to be, think about how programs came to be, all the different apps. Some people might have a very high speed internet. They can download and upload information. Other people have that capability in their computer, but they don't know how to use it. Then there's other people that have a lesser computer program, their body, but yet they know there's a part of them that knows I can expand even more. So not everybody ever uses their computer, laptop, phone, whatever technology or cars to its full capacity. So we do that even with our own vessels and the stuff that we receive. So now putting a program or a computer into a car is like us being, having a human form, and now we have the being part coming in. So how we came to be, there's the physical part, and that probably is a lot of parts that got manipulated. They were talking about in previous stories that when the Watchers came down and they impregnated women, their offsprings, they had alchemy, they knew things that the human race wasn't capable of understanding. They started eating the human race. They started having sex with all kinds of species. So when you did see pictures of a horse head on a human, what we call human, another animal, or beast as that we were called, the forms were called, not us. They can manipulate. We do that now. Maybe not me, you, Jaro. Well, you do, Jaro, because you do manipulate programs. So I manipulate things too. Electricity. I might not necessarily make the equipment like the plugs and switches. I'm at that point being a Lego set. I'm putting things together. Now I could, hopefully if I can build it, I should be able to troubleshoot it. So this is where most humans, we've forgotten, you should be able to troubleshoot within yourself if you're silent long enough so that the physician can heal itself, or at least become aware. And then you can be guided to another computer, another human being that might be able to do that. Like I would never tell a surgeon, well, you're not good at your job. I would have to first ask him questions. And even that, give me in a situation where he was the only choice that I have for him to do surgery on me, I would have to trust or put faith in that surgeon and be prepared to accept or tolerate the results. But for most people, they just quickly assume, well, he's a mechanic, he should know what he's doing. I said, no, you should still ask questions. And plus, we live in an era where I could go on the computer and learn a lot about mechanics to a point. I'm going to humble myself to realize it's beyond my scope of doing it, but I can comprehend it. And then when I talked to my mechanic, I said, James, I've done some of my own personal research. So I'm not wanting something for nothing. And I'm not just talking financially. I'm talking about I can communicate with them. I could talk to him about or hear him when he said, Dominic, the engine has a problem. These are all the different alternatives. So this, I mean, I'm engaging in the process where most people, they don't want to do that, but yet they want the end result. Well, how much is it going to cost? You should have done that too. Telling me, well, Dominic, I only have so much money. Well, then you're not engaging. Beggars can't be choosers. And in that case, a person that doesn't go out and do research, again, search, especially we live in an age of technology, information, it's all there, Jaro. Before, people used to have to go to libraries and spend hours in the library because it was a reference book. They couldn't get that information. I mean, they couldn't take it home. So now we have it all on the computer. If we had this technology before the written work, books wouldn't have been as popular as they are today. You could even say the record industry wouldn't have been popular, DVDs. That's why we're going backwards. Because once we get to that ultimate part where it'll finally compete with the body's ability to pick up information. It's like me and you, Jarrell. If you're ever in your car and you turn on your GPS, you got to wonder, how are they able to pinpoint where I'm at? Is there a magnet here or something? No, it's because we don't really know how energy works. This is why when the Pope finally told America and Russia, stop doing nuclear war. And when I say nuclear war, I'm not talking about they're going to use it to kill people. No, nuclear energy, that's what the war is. Russia and America were both making all of these nuclear energies. And the byproduct of nuclear, you know what it is, Jarrell? It's electricity. So here we are using electricity, and they're getting all of us to drive electric cars so that they can put less burden on all the stuff they make with oil and all that kind of stuff. But meanwhile, other people are playing around with nuclear energy. You know, but people like to talk about, oh, Tesla's talking about 3, 6, and 9. Okay. Take any number, triple it. The number 1, 3 times, you got 3. Take the number 2, 3 times, you got 6. Take the 3, you got 9. Do the same thing with 4. Do the same thing with 5. Now you understand 3, 6, and 9s. This is how we play with numbers. This is why when I've heard Mike, nice guy, I love Mike. He's a nice gentleman. He knows how to diffuse things. But being a mathematician is still a limitation to our capability. It's like me and you being in a room where we've never seen all these servers. Wow, that's amazing. You might be able to know how to play with some of them or work with some of them. For me, it's like, oh, that's nice. It's over my head, but I'm humble enough to admit it. But we don't see that. That's why we use acronyms of 3s. 7, 7, 7. Add them all, put them all together. You got 21. What's 2 and 1? 3. 3 8s. Add them all up. You got 24. 2 and 4 is 6. Do you see how 3, 6, and 9s are working? That's why it's acronyms of 3. They're not do 4s. This is why we have the word news or laws. We only have words like FBI, CIA. Those are 3s because we're in the 3-dimensional. Now, what is it? That's up for interpretation because we're using a language that has its limitations. How did language come to be, Gyro? All its variations, those are programs. Think about all the different programs you use. Do you use DOS still? Probably. Do you use Windows? Probably. Is DOS running behind Windows? Probably. I can say perhaps, but I know it does. But for a lot of people that aren't even aware of that stuff, I present it in a way as probably, because nobody wants to think, well, Dominic, oh, fuck, you know all this stuff. I said, I'm not interested in just knowing things. I want to have discernment. Why did Helen Blavatsky get all that information downloaded to her? Or was she astral traveling? Don't know. So then if I don't know that, should I throw it all out? Or should I say, okay, but what was at least written? Because she's no longer here. So now I can have discernment if I get into that state of discernment. But most people get into a state, and I can say that for myself, well, I read the book. I have the book. Okay. I know how to pronounce her name correctly. Okay. I'm in theosophy. Oh, okay. I see all the ribbons that you're putting on you, but what value does it bring for you? And the other test would be for the rest of us, what value does it do for the human race? I hear people going on about whether or not we did or didn't go to the moon. What value did it bring to the human race as a whole to help things like poverty? Because obviously, if you follow the money, it helped a lot of people become rich from it. So does it really matter if they did or didn't? Same with hospitals. If people understood every time a person goes to the hospital, rich families get richer. So the hospital, are they truly designed for you to be healthy? Or it's trying to say, Don't go there, son. There's the Hoover House. Don't go there. There's a casino, son. Don't go there. There's a hospital. Don't go there. Well, Dad, how do I know not to go there? Well, you know, when you're there, you're attached. Somewhere in my life, I must have been attached in something else to avoid my own health, and now I'm in the hospital. Not to say that sometimes certain things that are in the hospital does serve certain people. But are you trying to tell me everybody at the casino has the right set of mind thinking, well, I'm in there because I want something for nothing? What do you mean? Well, I want to bet $1 to get $1 million. That's something for nothing. Because the guy that has $1 million and you give him $1, he said, that's nothing. I still acknowledge it's $1, but it's still nothing to me. I got $1 million. Choose the other person who says, well, I got $1 and I'm hoping to get what you want. Okay, that works for you. But anyway, went on again to Jar Jar. I always get into these philosophy and inquiries, but to get back on track is God again.
So I heard you mention something about alchemy. That something about. Are you referring to some beings that plant that planted humans on Earth or something?
Based on the story that the Watchers came down.
The Watchers, yes.
Okay, they came down and they started liking women and they impregnated them. And then what came through the womb is where the offsprings knew alchemy. And women, because they were childbearers of them, that's why some people would call them witches, because you would get some of the residue of how to do things, because the Watchers interfered. That's why they were called Watchers. It's kind of like the Star Trekian. You're there to observe the race, but not to interfere with the race. Because if you interfere with the race, you're going to set everything into motion. I think that's why I think part of us, we're aliens to this plane. You know, the Lord God formed something of the earth. So there's a good chance they were other kinds of beings, air beings, water beings, spiritual beings, don't know. You know, I've been told a couple of times I'm an air being. Now, being told that's feeding my ego, but I do have a sense I was never in the womb when it was being developed. That's why I get those moments where I'm not there. I feel as though I'm above my head. I'm not there. Or I'm just getting a moment of receiving information from the mind to the brain. You know, everything has to go through the kingdom first, to the king and queen first, before it can go down to the heart and all the rest of the part. If you're getting from up top, but some people might be getting information from their soul of their feet upwards. You know, hence I like the term when people say it, but they say it just nonchalant, as above, so below. The earth is just in the middle. You know. But yeah, alchemy, Jaro, such as language is alchemy, Jaro. You know, looking at something that you call gold, that's another type of alchemy, how to shape shift material. But giving it a language or a name to it, that's another variations of alchemy. You know, think about magic. A lot of times people use words and sound with magic. Think about music. When you play music, you're doing alchemy. You can set somebody's emotions based on certain types of music, whether it's Baroque music, rock and roll, any kind of music, Jaro, or musical instruments or lyrics. You know, I'm playing with the toys that are being given to me. For me to worry about who the toy maker is, I'm okay to do that too. And if I don't mind philosophizing about it and with all my whys and hows, that's science now. But when people come in with their likes and dislikes or agreements or disagreeing, then I'm setting myself up to get into some fucking mindfuck of a debate. You know, it's like somebody saying, well, Dominic, I used to play tennis. I'm like, okay, but me and Jaro are talking about playing tennis now. Yeah, but I was really good before. Okay, it's all about you. So Jaro, keep quiet. We're gonna listen to this guy talk about when he was younger, he played tennis and he thinks a wooden tennis racket is way better than a new tennis racket. I'm like, have you ever played with a new tennis racket? Well, no. So then how would you know it's better? Well, you young kids, we're living in this age. This is how people debate about cameras. Oh, you kids with your cut and paste. Cameras in our days, what? When are we talking about? When you're in a black room? When you had do the development, or when you were in a cave and you had to fucking scratch it on a stone. That's an ego talking. I've had conversations where I hear old men talking about it. Oh, in our day, Dom, we're not like this young generation. We were better with money. I said, because you never had all the other technology. You never had credit card. You never had PayPal. That's usually a bunch of men that are children still. And I personally think the way they talk about Socrates and Plato, they were the same type of men. Old men that had nothing better to do, because women are always working, and they had nothing better to do. I do the same thing, Jaro. I might be solely projecting, but what? I'm going to be off. You know, if I threw a grenade, I would never do that. But if I threw a grenade into a pack of hundreds of human beings, are you going to say to me 99 of them aren't going to get blown up? No, quite a few of them are going to get blown up. So it's the same idea with me speculating on how previous human beings used to act. And especially if you get a group of them of the same culture together, they're not them being receptive enough to ponder different possibilities. Forget about being open-minded. Open-minded is very dangerous. It's like opening up a dam. You could flood a lot of things. Receptive. Be receptive. Be perceptive and receptive. If you choose to do it. Now, it's my responsibility to question not myself why I say those words, but other people say, well, Dominic, can I question you what? On what I just said? You can if you want, but does it work both ways? And I'm okay with questioning other people, but if I'm being clever because I already know where I stand on that position, then why don't I just share that? Ask the question, then lead with my way of viewing how that answer, if there's an answer, and then allow other person to do it. Hence Socrates, best way to ask a question, answer a question is with a question. If they value that came out of his mouth, but I do value the statement. Because a lot of people, what we do, Jaro, we're clever. We ask a question, but we already know how we feel or we think, or both feeling or thinking, how we stand on that. So we're not really willing to entertain different possibilities. And that's what debating is. Most guys that debate, Jaro, are children. Because if they're so strong in their position that, like a wheel on a bike, you should be able to throw things at it. And most wheels, if they're going to probably go out of shape. They're going to be out of true. But you as yourself, if you truly believe that you're a crook and you talk like a crook and you act like a crook, there should be nothing that somebody else says about you that's going to move you. But now the person that's asking the question, why are you thinking of becoming a crook? What do you mean? Well, you're going to the teacher and the student. He's teaching himself to be a crook and he's being the student. He's doing it. So now the other person says, well, I'm not interested. So then what are you doing then? Are you gathering information? It'll be like me asking a surgeon, I don't agree with you being a surgeon, or I'm asking, why, Dom? Now, if he asks me some electrical questions, then it opens up the door that I can ask him questions I want to do, just to learn. I find it interesting when I do business for people, and I said, you run a business. Yes, you do. I said, then why are you trying to, is your business catered to that you have to negotiate or play this high-low game with pricing and all that? Well, no. I said, then why are you doing that with me? I told you what the price is, and I told you exactly how long it's going to take. So what's the issue here? Because if you think you could do a better job, or you don't think I can do the job, then do it yourself. I'm okay with it, Jaro. I'm not that desperate that I have to, I'm desperate in other areas of my life, but I'm not that desperate that I'm actually going to step over my own boundaries. Forget about other people's boundaries. It's one's own boundary that we step over. Now, we can talk about God, but there's a part of me knows you already know to a certain point what a God is or isn't for you, let alone you would even deviate it to the ideal of Jesus or Father, which I would never use either of those two words in the term of God for me personally. I would have my own investigation of what a character named Jesus was, let alone what people perceive as the Father. We talking, it's like in the Bible, honor your father and mother. Who are we talking about when we say that? No carving images, even though in the Catholic, they take that one out because they're not have a picture of a guy behind the pew on a cross, hung up on a cross. Oh, isn't that a beautiful image? Hey, Jaro, Your mother just saw a picture of you the other day there in the crucifixion position. Ooh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, let's show the person that crucified him how he did it. No, that'd be like taking a picture. You know, I wish your mother lives at least another 20 more years, Gerald. But taking a picture of your mother when she's on dialysis and she's bleeding to death as her funeral picture. But we just nonchalantly, that's what it is, let alone whether or not the person's light skin or dark skin. That's the whole debate. I hate when people say black or white, because you're not black or white. You're light skin or dark skin. Me and Gyro are both light skin. If we're with a whole bunch of people that are albinos, there's a good chance we might be classified as dark skin, especially if we're tanned. But as long as we say those words like black and white, there's people that run the system that say we have no issues with them. They're still asleep. They don't even know how to pronounce the word. I enjoy when you correct me in how I say words. So why can't people be okay when somebody says, but are you dark or white? Actually, I'm incorrect by saying dark or white, black or white, because you can't be dark. Because then I would struggle to understand as a child, then how to decipher the difference between somebody saying that they're black and then I seen a phone that's black. But that goes back to the person that's born blind, but the other person that thinks he was never blind. If he's never been able to see the word black, then have they been blind the whole time? Do we actually see colors when we close our eyes? No. Do you see colors when you're asleep? Maybe. Do you see it when you're talking? Hey, Don, look over there. I see green grass. I said, where do you see the word? I literally say the word, Jaro. Where do you see the word? We associate to something with our senses. And this is how the senses can easily be misled, because we think they're one. I see green out there, but meanwhile, Gerald just said it in Spanish out there. I just said it in Latin. So does that prove or denounce the fact that what we see out there is the material, but we give it names? This is where people get caught up in the oneness and duality. It could be a bit of both, or it could be neither. So if there is gods out there, Jaro, how would we lay the foundation based on our own perception? I think God is almighty, all willing. I said, so he forgot to build cities? This is the fun part when I tell people, I said, so these gods that you're talking about, because I think they're using their imagination, but let's say it even does exist. Did they forget to build highways? So they allowed us to build highways? Huh? It's an exercise in entertainment. And you allowed me to entertain myself out loud, by the way, Joe. Thank you. I can still be full of crap, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah, as my as with my sister talking. Go ahead.
No problem.
Interesting. How did we get here?
How do you think we got here, Joe?
Because how did we get here? I think I can I can I can observe that there's several there's several sources, concepts of God and related topics in the society I'm surrounded by. There are major sources. There's the source in the Old Testament, the source in the New Testament, and then within those there's sub sources, and then there's the source in tradition, in the Jewish tradition. Like if you grew up Jewish, you have, uh, and then Christian tradition, when you grew up in that, and you have, and so those different sources, and then there's science, and there's other religions, and so all there's the New Age movement, and so all these things influence the way people conceive of God, and then they decide, okay, when they start to think, what do I really believe? And then they try to express it. And so you get 7 billion different answers of
You
what
could,
God
you could,
is.
Joe. But what do you, okay, you mean you both go into a thrift store or into a mall and we start buying clothes. You're trying all these different outfits, you know, science, new age and all that, but you have to try them on for yourself and then come to your own awareness, not conclusion, but for some people it could be a conclusion. How does it fit you? So now let's say there is people that are new agers. Those are just terms, new agers or Christians or whatever. How does it fit for you when you hear their stories? It's not even worth trying an outfit that doesn't even exist anymore. So whether Socrates lived or not, that's an outfit we can't try on. So here you are, they could be accessories, but you try it on. So how does that help you to discover the inquiry that you put out there about where it came from? If not, then we're living precariously outside and allowing other people to tell us. And I don't think a lot of people are really trying to tell you. It's just laid out there. It's like an unspoken word where this is what we do. I said, no, that's what you do. I'm allowed to question it before I allow it into my house. So for you, how does it work for you, Jaro? If you want to share it out loud, because this is why when I was even Peter the other day there, I knew it was personal with him, but he was going in a long way. So he was saying, okay, let's use Dom's money or other people's money, but I don't want to share my money. But then you're not making it personal. It's like going to an investor and you're asking him for a loan. He said, okay, well, you went to the bank, right? And what did they say? No. You went to your parents. They said no. I said, okay, so how much are you going to invest in this adventure financially? Because you're asking me for money. So for you, how much have you invested in this inquiry?
Hmm?
Now, you telling me that other people, you're cherry picking at that point, Jar, without you knowing it. I'm not saying that you're doing this aware. You're cherry picking. So it's like me. I'll give you my example, Jaro. I buy a car that's made by a corporation. I know a bunch of people made it, and then I want to make it personal. So I go to another corporation, to a store, and I buy stickers, or I buy a muffler, or whatever. I know all those are being bought by everybody else, but eventually when I piece it together, that is what's personal to me. And that's what I share with the world. Now, if somebody said, Dominic, where did you get the sticker? I'll tell them that if they ask. But I'm not going to go around telling other people, yeah, Dom, it's your car, it's my car and all that, but the parts I got from here or there. No, unless you ask. So for you, you're asking the question out loud. How is it personal with you to know how you came to be? Now, you could start off from a simple inquiry, like I came from my mom's womb. Some people might think, well, no, he's starting off somewhere. That could be their foundation. And then you can build from that. And then you can find out later on when you put a little weight on it, has it been test worthy? See, people like to build things, but they don't even understand their foundation. And even if they do know their foundation, you should at least test it every so long as you go along. So where did you come from? Now you can do an outside branch and say, okay, where do thoughts come from? Well, you're using thoughts. Where do they come from? You could point to your brain if you want. You can even call it the mind if you want. These are self-inquiries that most people, the schooling system won't teach you that. Because even if they did, they would be spending so much time trying to teach that with other people, and it might benefit them. It wouldn't help the people that create the schooling system for economic reasons. People would not go to become a doctor or a nurse if everybody was actually learning how to take care of themselves. So it's a self-professing, or it's a self-perpetual, let's create something that's somewhat not going to last and endure so that we can make money on fixing it. Isn't that what our products are? Isn't that what our human bodies are? Should our bodies be breaking down at 60 or 70 years? Probably not. Your mother, for most people in civilized worlds, is a unicorn, Jaro. Most people aren't going to live 100 years old, let alone somewhat healthy. For me, I already have an exit plan. If there's, well, it's not an exit plan, but I got a sense I'm gonna probably reach 2050. So I'll be 86 years old. But I'm okay with that. Why? Because that's a good number. Now, when the time comes, who knows? If I'm sick and I have lumps or whatever, I can reevaluate that then. But most people live like the way I thought about it when I was 12 years old. That's the way I should think about when I'm 80 years old. So they're not really receptive. They're living like what their parents told them. But then why aren't you living in the farm anymore? But yeah, you're willing to have a new technology, call a car, a computer, a phone. So we're allowed the external world to change, but yeah, we won't change within ourselves. But anyway, I went off because you're, even that you kind of went a little bit too jarro where you're talking about all these other industries, but yet, how do you know where you came from? You could start somewhere, like you came from your mom's vessel. You could even came from a form of an egg and a sperm, if you want to even use that as a possibility. And then you could talk about how bones came to be within the flesh. Don't know. Now, you're not going to hear me say, no, I don't agree with you, Charo. I'll just say, okay, sure.
And you said a word an hour ago or more, uh, when we started, the word entities.
Mhm.
So kind of like an introduction to God, maybe maybe gods are entities.
Could
So
be.
what is an entity?
Bacteria in your body could be classified as entities. Entities in some
Oh,
interpretation, I can interpret it like as workers. But if you want to call them gods, okay. Or some people, not you, Jaro, but some people, if they want to call it gods, sure. An entity, a foreign entity. You have a whole bunch of bacteria in your body and you've allowed some other outside entity to, so then it would be classified as a foreign or over an abundance of entities. This is why our bodies usually have parasites, another form of entities, and we have too much of one and not enough of another. We can call them red and white blood cells. Cancer cells is an entity. Is it foreign? It's foreign in the sense that it's only there to be activated only when the body's got into disease mode. So it's foreign to the blood and white cells until they start communicating, said, no, we're on the same team. I'm just doing jobs that you guys aren't designed to do. It wasn't your fault, white and red blood cells. It's just that the body's been bombarded, and not just with food, introducing radio frequency, electricity, Wi-Fi, the noise that we do also puts the body in disease mode because we are wireless devices. It's kind of like having your cell phone, Jaro, and you're around really high electricity or magnetic. It will play havoc on that cell phone. And if you stay there long enough, it will start deleting things off of it. So our bodies are designed very similar, but we've been told that cancer is a bad thing. No, cancer is there to help. Cancer cells, not cancer, cancer cells. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't know how to practice doing detox. So when the cells, in this case, the cancer cells, gather all those negative, not even negative, but just bacteria that it's too much of one and not of enough, it just sits there. It doesn't know to excrete itself and remove itself out of the body. So then eventually what happens, either a white cell or a red cell, new ones, burst it, or people do this other hideous thing called chemo. Chemo to me is like, I got a pain in my head, so I'm going to take this gun revolver and I'm going to load it up with 5 bullets opposed to 6 and hope it'll solve it. No, that's dangerous. But then again, people are so desperate to live, but they've never really lived to really understand what is living. I know a lot of times, even with me, Jaro, I just exist. And it's not the healthiest position to be in, but at least I'm honest with myself when I feel those things. Can I do something about it? Yeah, I am doing something about it. I'm being aware of it first. I know that's, anyway, entity. Yeah, it could be interpreted as some people would say gods. Sure.
So I wonder, there seems to be a dissociation between what a a a a mainstream, maybe I'm generalizing, but a typical Christian, or maybe I could specify, like say the Christian Mike Nigro, who lives in Panama City, who has joined us before, and maybe he stopped joining us because he uh he couldn't over uh he couldn't
Sure.
share what he wanted to share, and but we got his basic premise. So he has the concept of God and Jesus and all that. So
Hmm.
there seems to be a a a difference between that concept and what's actually written in the Bible.
Could be,
So that
Joe.
means that there's been an evolution to what many people conceive of as God, and the God of Jesus' time, and the God of Moses' time, and the God that is referred to in the Garden of Eden, in that story. Because in that story, it that God is walking the earth and looking for Adam and Eve. Where'd they go? And then he's talking with them. It's like an actual person is there. So what's
Jaro,
up with that?
Jaro, it'll be like a person that's a criminal. Criminals like hanging around with other criminals. When a person presents himself and say they're very kind or they're questioning things, they don't feel comfortable with them. Now, if you're comfortable in your position, in this case, Mike's position, I'm just using that as an example as a Christian, it's kind of the metaphor I use about one person's kind, the other person's me. Who are you to change another person? Mike didn't feel comfortable around me because I didn't give him a direct, I don't agree with Christians, let alone I agree with them. Mike's probably surrounds himself with other people that are very like-minded, which is okay. But I never once told Mike I'm interested in being a Christian. And for him, he can't comprehend that because for Mike, it's a test of your own math equation. This is the way we've always done it. Who are we? So for him, if he chooses to be a Christian, be the example. I'll learn from your teachings. Doesn't mean I want to be a Christian. I don't have to be a criminal to know that I do certain activities that other people that make rules will say taxes. Who's to say that they're supposed to make the tax rules? But if there are rules out there, I'll try to understand them. And if I want to participate, I'll try to obey by them. And if not, then I have to be the wise guys discerning the difference. If I'm going to commit a crime based on their laws, I got to know the punishment. So in this particular case, Mike didn't realize he's in conversion mode. Converting, yeah, to convert. I'm not interested in being converting. I already know I've been converted, whether it's from commerce to state to religion. That's why when I chose, I no longer was interested in being a Roman Catholic, state and religion. I made it a point to study as best as I can because I don't want to become a professional denouncing Roman Catholic, let alone promoting it. Then I was able to look at all the other religions and teachings, whether it's Buddhism, Hinduism, Catholic, Mormons, Jehovah Witness, the Quran. I just get to be the observer now. I don't have to pick a side. Dare not ask a person that really loves their sports team that, can you cheer for the sport itself? No, I can only cheer for my team. So you're not really into sports. You're into your team. And that's what most people do. I don't care if it's a liberal talking or a conservative or a Christian or a Muslim, let alone talk to science, gravity. Well, last time I remember, gravity is the theory. So when are we going to entertain the idea that we're learning more about magnetic stuff? Because there's going to be another generation that say, well, why didn't we talk about magnetic? Why? Because we're onto something else now. Yeah, but it's gravity. Well, then you have to explain birds because it's still a theory. Just because a lot of people debated each other and denounced each other's theories doesn't make the last theory standing the truth. It's just a theory. So I can theorize about the concept of God, but I can't prove it, Gyro. Now, somebody else could say, Dominic, but I can. I said, that's the reason why I said I couldn't prove it, because even if I could, how would I be able to explain it to another person? That's the same with the other person. And this is why we get caught up. Oh, but it's okay for somebody to write the book over and over. It's like the Bible is the most sold book, but it's not the most read book. Because every Bible out there, regardless if you get it for free, was printed and somebody paid for it. So now it has many variations to it. Even the Bible itself has all those different stories. That's why we call it the Bible. But there's been many stories that are not included in it. But for me to have that conversation with Mike is no different than me talking to an occult or a Jew and say, you're a Jew. Are you one of the two lost tribes? What do you mean, Judah or Benjamin? Why? Because the Jews coexisted with the tribe of Israel. Jews back in the days were called gypsies. Or are you a Zionist? Because even Jews don't want to be associated with Zionists. And what are Zionists? Germans. Nothing wrong about that. It's just being awareness of how things evolved. That'll be like me looking at the Tesla car and saying, oh, I don't agree with the Ford Coupe 1949 or whatever. No, there's the evolution. Just because a car is electric, there's still parts that were created that's called a car. The tire. Now, if we have hover cars, we can still talk about, okay, so are we going to call that a plane now? Or are we going to call it a car now? Why? Because a car used to be based on positive and negative and grounding. Well, now when it's above the ground, then we call it a hovering device. We call it an aeroplane. It's no different like a boat. You know, these are all the different things. When you hear about the word ship, there's crafts that are called ships up in the air. Well, they're UFOs. Identified flying object. If the military knows what they are, they're not they're not saying it's an unidentified flying object for them. For the average citizen that doesn't even know how those things are made, sure, they can use that phrase. But I saw an alien. So you were able to use binoculars to see who was in the cockpit. So how do you know it was an alien? Now, unless you say that the unidentified plane is an alien, meaning that it's not like all the other planes. That's why we have foreign aliens. We have aliens that live in America. They're not the citizens of that nation, so they would be classified as aliens. Do you see how the English language is so easily to be manipulated? So now, knowing that, this is the conversation. And Mike went on to a point I got really crusty about it because that's just shit I hear from these people. I said, you don't see because you think you stand in one position, the answer is two, the answer is two. And meanwhile, I'm giving you different possibilities, not to get a different answer, to confirm your answer. Well, Dominic, I don't understand what you're talking about. I said 100 minus 98 still gives you your position of two. You're a Christian, which is fine. But if you're a Christian, read your Bible. Only 144,000 people are going to survive. So what about all the rest of the Christians? Because most of those religions, like state, is to feed on the ego. It's all about me, which there's some validity to it. The only thing that we have is me. It's a selfish endeavor, which is fine. But it'd be nice if people were at least rationally selfish. Consider other people. Gyro, if me and you are both applying for the same job and I'm in the office before I get interviewed, I'm going to wish the best for you, Gyro. And I'll even tell you after I'm done the interview, I'll tell you whether things were successful. I'm going to count on whoever's going to hire us is going to take the best person for you. This is not me against you. It's like golf. Golf is not a sport that you compete with other people. You compete with yourself. Now, they make an outside premise. The person that has the best score gets more money, but you're still competing with you. And this is the fun game. So that's what I got from Mike. Mike's a clever dude, and that's fine. But if he thinks he's wise, that's fine. But he made it a point to go over and over again to a point where I said, okay, fuck it, I'm going to bring up some of my hairs. Then you run away like Rami. That's what they do. They run away because they don't realize, well, I'm a scholar, which is fine. So are you really considering other people? Now they might turn around and say, well, Dominic, what about you? I said, Your role is to consider yourself first and foremost. So, but are you really considering other people? Well, let's test it. What do you mean? Are you still here? Well, no. So you came here already thinking, if I like the group and it makes me feel good, like women do when I look at them, then I'll stay here. But they're not ever be challenged. Then they run away, and then they want to call themselves their friend. You're not even close. I would respect you more if you were at least my enemy, because at least enemies spend this as much time as my friend would and say, what are your strengths and your weaknesses? How can I help you, and how can I tear you apart? And I'm always waiting for a person to try to tear me apart. Why? Because that'll help me. It's like fire, taking gold and putting testing to see if it's real gold through fire. But I don't do that, Dom. And that's why I say I don't sell pleasantries. And when I do, it hurts me. Oh, Dom, you're a nice guy. Really? Put me in a situation of a crisis situation, then and only then you can say that I'm still that what you say, it's a nice guy. Or people just projecting, because back in the day when you said the word nice, it was a cheap shot of saying, that's nice. They're basically saying that person's what they call an il morte de femme, somebody that's poor. I think even jazz brought up that word one time, and it resonated with me, because we have to remember language were created and they've evolved. We don't change the windshield wiper on a car anymore, the concept. What we do is maybe we'll make different types of wipers, but the concept is still there. Now we might put it on electronics, but the wiper's still there. So the same with languages. They really haven't changed. That they might have split, but in a way, overall, they're still there, and we can piece it together if we choose to. And Jaro, we all do it in our own way. Now, you're the host or whatever, and if you had a really strong noose or whatever, you probably could keep us all in line, but you like to go freestyle. So that's what we're going to get. I remember when Rami used to tell me, well, Dominic, you're angry. I said, have you ever not been angry, Rami? But it's okay to point other people's faults, because you're too busy wanting other people to say, oh, look at me, I'm a grandmaster, I'm at home, I'm reading all these books, which is fine. But did you make the books? No. Did you make the people that are hearing you? No. Did you make the people that are going to give you applause? No. So then who are you talking about then? People don't have room for God. Hence W.U.T.C. God is dead. Why? It's dead in most people's views, because they can't even see what was formed or created before them. Now, I'm not saying God's created all that stuff, but it gives me the philosophy of the whys and the hows. It's an awe moment. Oh, wow, look at those beautiful trees. People said that we used to have trees that were even bigger than the sequoia trees. Oh, that's nice. But I do love the sequoia trees. When I get to see them, they're not native to my particular part of the world, this part of the world. But I've seen them. I've been up close to them. I've seen them even uprooted. I'm like, those are fascinating. Why would people want to cut them down? Like anything else, you pay people enough money, they'll destroy anybody, whether it's in the military, a religious person. People taking pictures, about 30, 40 people on top of a stump of a tree that they just cut down. And then what? You don't think people were disturbed by that? No different when you see an elephant that's been shot down and there's a hunter posing all that. One thing is to do it in private. That's one thing. But another thing is to brag about it. That'll be like people taking pictures. You see this woman in the closet here? I've got her as a hostage. And then most people, what would they do? Especially most people that are indifferent. Oh my God, that's so wrong. But yet I won't do nothing about it. And when I say do something about it, do nothing, I'm not talking about they're not doing anything physically. I'm talking about even talking about it and making sense of it. How many times I've had conversation with my loved ones? I said, really, because they're having a stumbling block with other people that communicate. I said, sad thing is you're trying to reason this out with other people that aren't reasonable. It's different when you're with somebody that had a slip and way of thinking or feeling, and then you can reason with them later. But most people aren't reasonable. They're not going to use their reason. They're literally reading from a book and it's teaching them to be dumber. And then they say, well, Don, what do you mean by being a scholar? Well, you're not a scribe, you're a scholar. What do you mean? You read everything from a book, which is fine. No different than somebody can call me an oral guy. Okay. Not because I don't want to write, that's not my skill set. Now, somebody could turn around and say, well, Dominic, but then you're saying that I shouldn't write. I said, no, I'm not talking about, you shouldn't have to defend it or attack it. I'm just challenging it for the sake of challenging it for myself. Now that other person can say, well, Dom, you made it personal. What, you own the written work? Well, no. So then where did you get the idea that those thoughts are yours? You know, I hear people when they talk about, oh, the United Nations talking about they have this policy. You know, they're going to say that we're not going to own nothing, but we're going to be happy. Well, who's saying we own anything now? We're supposed to take care of the vessel. We don't own the vessel. You take care of the car. You don't own it. This is the whole concept of we think we have rights. No, you have privileges. You come into this form. So now if you want to tap into where we came from, well, I can talk about the first time you stepped into the door. Now you have a privilege. At the very beginning, it's a great opportunity for the people that you come in. So I come here for you, mom and dad, but I'm going to rely on you to take care of me first, because I'm this old soul, and what you do for me or lack of it, then it's going to come back to you. Now, if I choose to be two wrongs make a right, if there's even such thing as the concept of wrong, I can only give you what you give back. If a person is very egotistical, truthfully, if I want to engage with that person, I can only give back what they give. If a person wants to be entertained, I can only give back and receive vice versa, barter for barter. Now, I don't have to give the exact same fruit, but it's still going to be a fruit. I'm going to give an orange, he gives me an apple. But if I give him an orange and he gives me a snake, I said, did I get bitten or something by that snake? Why? Because you're giving me something I don't need. Yeah, but Dominic, but you might want it. I said, I don't lack having a snake. Unless they're going to say, well, Dominic, wouldn't it be nice to learn how to get bitten by a snake? I said, but I was actually trading with you fruits, not a lesson. Jar, here's one. If there's a possibility we do or don't know where we come, where do we go when we go to sleep? Where do we go? That's me just sharing that out loud, because that's a self-inquiry. That's something you can drag into your own little cave and say, oh, or you can actually do it while you're hearing other people say, I heard something today. Now, where do I go? Now, you can use other things that probably aren't going to help you in the long run, but, well, what does science say? What does my friend say? No, that's a self-inquiry. It's the inquiry of the self. Where do we go? I don't know. Well, then you can ask the next question. Maybe we could find out and put some thought to it, and maybe some mantra, pray to it. Maybe I can find out somebody that can tell me that. And if you're truly sincere about it and you do it over and over again, maybe you'll note it. And then weeks, months later, somebody comes up, hey, Jaro, and having a conversation. I just found out the other day there a possibility, because that's all I can ever be to another person, a possibility, where we come from. And I say that with all sincerity, possibility. It's no different than a guru. You're not my guru. You could be a light, but you're not my guru. The fact that we elevate people in position tells us how weak we are. Even if the person is aware of that, he said, Dominic, either A, I'm going to allow them to elevate myself, so I would have to do it knowingly, or I'm so stupid myself, I don't even realize I shouldn't be elevated. Look at me, I'm the Dalai Lama, I'm the Pope, I'm the president of the world, I'm a dictator. I laugh because I know, given any of those opportunities for me to be in those positions, who knows how I would handle it. You're beneath me, Jaro. You're just a peasant. Really? Am I, Dom? Okay. So is a peasant allowed to not be able to put a sword in the back of your gut? Well, you can't do that. I said, I just did. I took a child and was it the emperor with no clothes to share something where everybody else was too gutless to say the king is nude. The innocence of a child, to be honest, from what they're observing. And most people are so busy and saying, well, Dominic, I'm going to tell you what you want to hear. I said, so you're not going to tell me what you really see from within, let alone from without? If I told a whole bunch of people to tell me that a hammer is a pistol, and people said, Dominic, that can never happen. I said, but if I'm the king and you're working for me and you're worrying about dying, how long would you think it would take before you would teach your offsprings to say, listen, from now on, son, we call a hammer a pistol? Then you wonder how programs work. Like the phrase, money's the root of all evil. No, it's humanity. We're the root of all material. Humans are. It's not bad. Money's not bad. It's just, it brings us our convenience, both in what we can buy, and we don't have to luck around if people do literally have natural resources. Most of us don't even have resources, Jarvis, so we're already indebted. So we exchange the one resource we have left is our energy. Dare not AI replace us. Then we're not even needed to do that. Now, the concept is, and this is where church comes in, 144,000 people will survive. What about the other billion Christians that follow that stuff? No, you're out the door. So it's the same with AI. You'll have probably 200-300 million AIs, and the rest of you, without a job. And the rest of you can have meaningless jobs. The stuff that we can't replace you yet because it still needs mechanical assistance. You know, from now on, eventually you'll have to go to the hospital. They'll scan you right at the door, check you for magnetic stuff, and then they'll tell you exactly what your ailments are. And if you don't agree with it, then you go to another hospital that does the exact same thing. So you at that point, you no longer have human connections. But then again, that was the hope of cell phones for people, that we could have better connection. But more times than not, we give little one-word phrases, LOL, little emojis and all that. You know, give me a thumbs up. But meanwhile, dare not tell a person, say, listen, I just gave you a 14-page review on something, and you just gave me a like. Is that what it's worth? I just spent 4 days growing all these apples, and the only thing you gave me was one piece of paper. That's me being obnoxious when I say fuck off. What's more the insult? What I just said or what they just did? You know, people get offended by words. I said, well, then how do we distinguish the difference when somebody's raping somebody or somebody mistreating another human being? Because that's all about the ego. As long as it's not hurting me, I'm okay with poverty. But yet, dare not them say, but there's people richer than you. Oh, well, that's wrong. Self-gratification, narcissist, psychopath, sociopath. Just fortunate enough that there's only a few of those, and the rest of people are just indifference. So where did we come from, Gyro? As a possibility, who is God? Does it come? Do we go back to there? That's a quick leap that people make. I don't know where I came from, but hey, maybe we'll go there. You know, that's what the church says. We go there. And then there's other people turn around and say, well, they believe that we go to heaven, and I just turn around. I use a different word with believe. I don't believe we go there. Okay, so instead of having the glass half full, half empty, where's all the other different possibilities? Why would we come here? Why would we go somewhere else? Well, Don, we don't do those kind of questions. Oh, so you don't ask questions. You just do defense and attack. Yes, I defend my religion and I attack other religions. I defend my position as an atheist and I'll attack religious people. Why don't you attack state? Well, I'm a secular. Sorry, Jara. You could have jumped in at any time. My apologies.
No, it's okay. I like the question. Where did we come from? Where did we go from here?
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting. Where did we come from? It's referring to the past.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to look at our what we can recall our memories, and what others can recall, and what they teach us in school that we have to remember as history, our past. And then where do we go from here? That involves planning, like okay, so we're supposed to do this and that, and supposed to be, as a nation, we're destined to do this and that, and we have to be good and all this, and we have to plan, and we have to put things on the calendar, And so that's the future. And but both of them really don't exist.
You
Only
only
the
have the
present.
moment. You only have the moment. We
The
have
moment
where we're at.
exists. And so the question for the moment would be, where am I?
Yeah, where we're at. Where am I at this
Where
moment?
we're at.
Yeah, hence awareness.
And th-
That's what awareness is. Awareness is not about knowing what's going to happen in the future, even let alone what's happening in another part of the world in a different time zone. Even though we have the ability to now get little glimpse in through a mirror where I'm seeing in a moment where Jaro's doing it, but I don't know what's going on in the rest of Florida. It's like when people go to traveling. You go, they say, I went to Italy. I said, what part did you go to? Because you didn't go to all of Italy. You went to certain parts. Same with me. I live here in Toronto. I live in a small part of Toronto. I can't describe the rest of Canada, let alone the rest of Toronto. I can make a lot of assumptions, and I usually use my imagination, even if it's fact. It's based on somebody else's fact. Well, Dom, it's going to rain tomorrow. I'll know exactly how it is tomorrow when I'm there tomorrow, and it's raining. Outside of that, everything else is just a forecast. It's a guessing game based on these conditions, based on high-tech technology that me and you never get to present it on. It's usually science and military stuff, could even be spiritual stuff. And they say under these conditions, this is what usually 40% of the chance. They never say like 70% of the chance. And if they do, they know for sure it's 70%, not 100%, that it's going to rain or it's going to snow or it's going to hail. But more times than not, it's speculation. It's like me going to work and say, Jaro, I'm doing some electrical work at your place tomorrow, and 3 out of the 10 plugs I'm going to do are going to be done correctly. It's not a good stat. That's why baseball, it's still amazing to play the game, and it's a lot of things involved in it. But when somebody says it's amazing to hit the ball 3 out of 10 times, we're not really excelling that much as a human race. At 3 out of 10 times you hit the ball. But compared to everybody else that are less than them, they're considered gods. Or excellent. I can't even say gods, you know. But if I did the same result and say, listen, I'm going to go work for people, and 3 out of 10 times when I do some surgery on you, I'm going to be successful. Tom, that's not a good stat. I don't want to take my chance with you. That's why we get entertained, Gyro. You know, and yes, I was talking a lot of times about the past and some sort of concept of the future, because the only thing I'm ignoring the whole time is the now, the moment. That's all I have is the moment. Go ahead, Gyro.
yes, the moment. And the moment that we fall into difficult situations, or where we are surprised, or we're startled, or we're amused, or we're in conversation with someone, we might say, "Oh my God,"
Yeah, you said
or
that word, oh my
something
God.
to that effect. And I analyze that
Mhm.
and wonder, when I say that, why is it my God? Is it
Good catch.
because my my God is personal and it's
Mhm.
not your God? So that means every person has their own God. So what do you mean when you say, "Oh my God"?
Well, the word my, Gyro, is because a lot of times we use the language we don't question, such as you're with your parents and they say, these are my kids, this is my house. When did we ever get the idea that we should be attached to possessions? You know, I catch it myself too when I say every so often, my wife. I know she has a name, she's Judith. Now, when we say that, it's always funny when you say that. When it's a crisis, you hear an atheist say something like, "Oh Jesus," or "Oh God." I'm like, why are you even saying a word that's not who you are? Because most people don't realize they're in reactive mode. I do it too. I say sloppy languages. Dare not somebody ever correct them and say, "So what do you mean when you say my God?" Well, that's not what I meant. So, but why did you say it then? That's like putting, you know, knowingly that your car, or somebody just presented to you that your car has bad gas, as you're actually putting more bad gas into your tank. Or I'm knowingly knowing that I'm choking from the last piece of food I have, and a bad habit I'm doing is I'm putting more food in my mouth. That's what people do. That's sloppy thinking, feeling. Both of them are sloppy. If one does not believe let alone know that God exists or doesn't exist. That shouldn't come out of their mouth. That'll be no different me coming around every time I meet my friends and say, yeah, I like to be known as Tersini. What do you mean? I don't want to be called by my mom's given name. I want to be called by my forefather's surname. Okay, so how about we do this? I won't call you any of those names anymore. I'll just call you it. What do you mean? I don't like being told how to tell other people how I should respond. Now you can ask very politely and say, listen, I do like to be acknowledged as Mr. Tersini. Okay, that's fine. So then I can ask them, so how would you like to be acknowledged? Like an idiot. So at least when I call you something, you can call me idiot. Because I'm in good company. Now, some people just let that slide. They think nothing of it. Because they don't really, go ahead, Jaro.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
When you talk about how we would like to be called or how we get called, for example, in the last name too, it was given to us in our first name too,
Mhm.
and then we we have we have it on our birth certificate, our social security, our everything,
Mhm.
our bank account. We have to use that legal name for everything important.
Mhm.
So, and then if we want to change our name, we have to go through a legal process.
Yeah, but a lot of
But
times too, Jaro, a lot of times when you change your name or you don't pronounce your name correctly with your name that's given to you, because your mother's usually intuitively are picking up when you're about to jump in the vessel, you've already told her the name you want to be called. You know,
wow,
I've go with the concept that respect should come freely. I've had this conversation when Rami would always want to correct me in how his name should be pronounced, to a point where I think I just won't call your name anymore. Where if I'm mispronouncing it, that's fine. Correct me once, twice. Eventually, you might ask me and say, Dominic, you have a tough time pronouncing it. Yes. Well, can we find a middle ground? Okay, what's the middle ground here? You're going to teach me how to pronounce your name, which I'm okay with. Let's do that privately. You do it publicly, you're going to get a hole ripped into you. But if you do it privately, I could say, I'm having a difficult time pronouncing your name. So can we find a middle ground? Middle ground could be, just call me Dom by my last name. Okay. Gerald, this is how people
no,
disrespect each other, where you're working in a mall or you're working somewhere and
Called
you
a couple hours ago. I just want to make sure you're all right.
Rami.
there you go, mommy's right there. So you heard us. You know exactly what we're doing.
I sorry to bother you. Nothing serious. I just wanted to invite you to a wake up and think clearly that spontaneously happened.
Oh,
And
okay.
Dominic is here and I'm here. And so if you wanted to join us, the topic is God. Oh my God. What do you mean when you say oh my God? How come it's your God and not mine? Is everybody
Uh,
is a God possessing us?
it's uh, check out the what was it? The third commandment. That's all I got to do about today. Was I gotta get back to Stacy, but I wish you
The
both the best,
third
and we'll
commandment.
catch you next time.
Thank you. I'll check out the third commandment
All
for
right,
a
thank you. Bye.
clue. The third commandment. Oh, I don't remember it. I know that it's that it starts off with the Lord your God, ye shall not have strange gods before me, because I'm a jealous God. I'll kill you if you have another God. No, I'm paraphrasing. Hmm. Maybe in the Bible they weren't even numbered. And then there's two different versions of them. Oh, I'll have to end the conversation now because I have some things to do. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. All the entities that joined us. Hmm.